What the flip is up, guys? What's that behind me? Cypress trees. That's right. We're up in them today, if you can't tell. You know, there's always that saying, it takes one to know one. Well, to catch a bass in the cypress trees, you got to spend a little time in the cypress trees. Let's get after it. Alright, real quick. Go ahead, pause this video, and let me know down in the comments what body of water you're fishing that has cypress trees. Sweet. Alright guys, so let's say it's your first time out on the water with cypress trees. Or maybe not. Maybe you've been out here before, but you're struggling with the cypress tree game. I want to start by saying I'm doing this video pretty generalized. I'm not doing it very specific to any season. This is just a general video for cypress trees. Later on I'm going to go into depth with some videos specific to the seasons, right? But for now, I just want to do a general video. So first things first, maps, right? If you have maps, utilize your maps. I can't speak for everywhere in the country, but personally, like here on Santee Cooper, Humminbird or Lake Master makes great maps for Santee. A lot of people don't know this, but to get Lake Marion's map, you actually have to download it separately via Chart Select and plug it into your GPS, but I have it on here, and it's pretty good. Garmin has pretty good maps too, but a little wishy-washy. I'm not 100% sure about Navionics. But anyways, maps. You want to look at your maps. So if you're in big, giant areas like Santee Cooper's full of, how do you narrow that down, right? You start with your maps. Or if you know where a creek channel is, or if you're on the river, you want to look for breaks. Personally, that's where I find the best fishing on cypress trees. If you've got some sort of steep break nearby, or for instance, say it's like a small island of trees, and there's deep water nearby, that's what you want to look for. You want to look for trees that are different, right? All the trees look the same, but while you're out there, you want to look for those subtle differences in the mapping. That's where your high percentage areas are, your high spots, your low spots. So if it's a giant flat that's all 3 feet of water, and there's one spot and there's some trees right off the edge of it that are 4 or 5 foot, that's probably a spot you want to hit up. But definitely look at channel swings on the rivers. And if you're up in a swamp kind of like I am right now, if you can find creek channels, those are freaking money. Especially when the water draws down and pulls those fish out and they only have so much place to go, they're going to be in those channels in that deeper water. So that's something you want to start with. You want to find areas near deep water. That's going to be your highest percentage, right? Alright guys, so now that you've got your trees that you're going to fish, the first thing you want to do is identify if you have wind and or current. If you have either of these, I highly suggest start out on the front side of that first. That's where your aggressive feeding fish are going to be. Not a giant, but just like I was saying, the aggressive fish are always on the front side of that tree. You can see that big fat belly sitting there feeding up. If you're not getting bites there, work through it and turn around and fish the eddies. And then change your angles too. Sometimes they don't want it right on the front. They'll want it casted up past and brought with the current or wind naturally, right? Alright, let's say you don't have wind or current. It might get a little trickier to find them. They're probably going to be a little less active, especially on the non-windy days. You got bright bluebird skies, it gets a little hard. Shade is a big thing. If it's really bright outside, fish the shady spots, right? But they're not always just going to be in the shade. So when it's like that, when you don't have any wind or any current, I really focus on making as many casts at different angles as I can. And when I do catch one, I notice. And I make a mental note of, which way I was casting and how that retrieve was. Because that's going to be pretty big for you if there's no wind or current. It gets a lot tougher like that. So definitely make sure you're making as many casts as you can at different angles, and don't be afraid to cast up there 5, 6, 7 times on the same tree. I've caught 1,000 fish doing that. And then you want to look for your shade and really focus on your shady areas, getting up in the dirty stuff where nobody else is putting their baits, right? So when you finally do catch that first fish, right, take a mental note. You're looking at everything, right? I've already talked about you're looking for your casting angle, your wind, current, all that, but you're also looking for little subtle things, right? Is that tree 7 inches deeper or shallower than the trees around you? Is there grass around it? Is it a big tree? Is it a little tree? Is it isolated? Is it in an island? Or like a cluster? Take notes of those things. Those make huge differences. If you can take that and realize, okay, this tree was in 3.5 feet of water. It had lily pads on it with a V opening, one clean entrance to that tree, and that's where I put my bait. Boom. And if you can find trees similar, you might be able to pattern like that. It's helped me out a lot. Alright, now let's talk about baits, right? So there's a million ways to skin a cat. Heard that 1,000 times, right? It's the same way of fishing cypress trees. You can throw just about anything on them. Obviously, there's some things that perform better than others. But one of the things is, you're not going to come out here slinging an Alabama rig in 2 feet of water, right? You probably could. I don't suggest it. You're going to waste a lot of money. So if I had to choose, like let's say I could only bring 3 baits to fish cypress trees the rest of my life, I'm 100% going to have a Texas rig. Probably going to have a buzzbait. And definitely a chatterbait. So that gives me 3 kind of presentations. But there's 1,000 things that work. You got those 3. I love throwing a frog on the trees. I throw swim jigs, square bills. Hell, I've even caught fish throwing a drop shot on trees before. There's all kinds of ways to do it. I think sometimes it's about, if you're on a really heavily pressured lake like Santee Cooper, sometimes you got to be a little different. Everybody down here throws a wacky rig, but I still throw it too, and I catch them on it. I do something a little different. I'll be honest, I weight mount a little bit, so mine has a little bit of a faster fall than most people's probably does. And I don't know if it helps or not, but personally I feel like I get a little more bite. I started getting a little more bites when I started doing that. But that's just me. Don't be afraid to lose baits. You're throwing up on a cypress tree, right? There's all these little knees and roots coming off of it. You have limbs hanging over. So when you're fishing these cypress trees and the bushes coming off of them, the downed trees, key thing that I did with this fish, I was bouncing it off these twigs right here. And then I kind of got hung up and I kind of gave it a little twig, a little tap. Boom. She hit it. I honestly thought she was a twig at first, but she was not. Thank you, Lord, for that fish. That was a good one. Throwing the little micro max. You're gonna get hung up. You're gonna lose baits. It's part of it. It's no different than throwing square bills or crankbaits down a riprap wall. You're gonna lose them at some point. It's okay. Now, if you're new to it, I probably wouldn't come out here throwing jackhammers all the time and get them hung in the limbs where you can't reach them or on the bottom of these trees. Takes a little while to get the hang of doing it, but I do want to show you a little trick to get your Texas rigs hung up. So this can work with worms, creature baits, whatever you do. So when you put your worm or whatever you're using, your plastic, when you put your hook through it, right, and you've got your hook exposed, as they call it, Texposed, I always focus on keeping my hook tip in. I don't know how well that's gonna focus, but to where my hook's not exposed. And I'll be honest, I rarely get hung up with a Texas rig anymore. Since I started doing that, I couldn't even tell you the last time I lost a Texas rig unless I was being stupid and, you know, really jerked on a root. There we go. So they are back here in the back. One thing I want to really say is, especially now in the fall and in the spring, do not be scared to get up as shallow as your boat will get you. Right now I'm in, probably my GPS or my Garmin up there is reading 0.7 feet. They're shallow. And the last thing I want to say before I get out of here is make sure you're covering water and make sure you're on the water, right? So you don't want to sit in one spot too long, and you don't want to sit on the couch too long. Get out there, catch the fish, and learn while you're doing it, right? Even if you're in a tournament. I've learned new things in tournaments all the time. Never be scared to try something different and just fish the way you want to fish, right? If you don't like fishing cypress trees, don't. If you're interested in it, get out there and try it. It's gonna be frustrating. The first few times you fish cypress trees is probably gonna suck, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. One thing I forgot to mention is casting accuracy. You've got to be accurate to fish these trees. Get out in the backyard, flip some buckets, cast some buckets, whatever you got to do to practice, and then get your butt down Santee Cooper or your nearest cypress tree lake and go catch them. Alright guys, I hope you liked this video. If you haven't already, take a gander at my review for the new boat. I'm loving it so far. I know if you've already watched it, I probably sounded a little negative, but I'm truly loving it. There's just a few little things that bugged me. But yeah, and I really hope this video helps if you're new to cypress tree fishing. And you know, let me know if it did or if it didn't and I missed some things. Let me know down in the comments. I would absolutely love to answer any questions or maybe make another video explaining some more things. I'm definitely planning on going a little more in depth with some other videos relating to the seasons later. But yeah, let me know. And if you hadn't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to bring you some more content. See y'all later.